explore the art of asking and the magic that unfolds when you do. If you build it, they will come. This iconic phrase has guided me on an incredible journey of securing guest speakers, museum kits, and unparalleled student engagement, all at little to no cost. Curious how you can achieve the same results? Join me as I share secrets and stories behind crafting opportunities out of thin air simply by asking. Hi, my name is Kaisha Louis, and this is If You Built It, They Will Come. I am both a teacher, a wife, and a mom. I've been teaching in the classroom for about 20 years now between my practicum, my student teaching, working in a special needs classroom. And now I've been a full-time classroom teacher for about 13 years now. I've taught everything from AVID to US history to civics, modern world history, ancient world history. I mean, you name it, and I've taught it. When it comes to the social studies realm. I have two channels, which is History Guru channel, which is me talking about middle school and social studies topics, which is super fun and awesome and amazing. I started doing it to build the curriculum for my students. I love a good corny video, and they all know that, or a good TED Talk. But I wasn't finding any videos that were 10 minutes or less that went over all the items that we were going over in a concise amount of time. So I have that channel. And then as a mom, I found that there weren't any simplistic videos out there that were going over my daughter's sight words. And we wanted to do something together. And she loves building things digitally, finding cool templates, making cool videos. So I built ICBC Early Learning to be able to help her with her sight words. We go over sight words, spelling of sight words, whether it's her sight words for her kindergarten class or it's sight words for Valentine's Day or Christmas. I mean, there's this super amazing thing that we got home that she was talking about the elves and building in Santa's workshop. And of course, just like most parents, she then spelt some words wrong, which was kind of entertaining. But those things that aren't very common words that you don't see all the time. I mean, they're great for a parent laugh, obviously, but I mean, seeing those sight words and going over them every single holiday is really important as well. So I am here to talk to you about my journey as a teacher, both growing my platforms, building my own lesson plans, finding different curriculums, but also reaching outside of my classroom because teaching isn't just a one person solo job. It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. And we really have to understand that root understanding of that because it's a community based idea. You can't survive without your community. And when they talk about parenting and it takes like a whole village to parent, they're not joking. Like it really takes a whole village. Trust me, our youngest is a boy, and that's a completely different ball game than a girl in potty training. Completely takes a whole entire village. And each time that there's a new obstacle that comes into parenting, you reach out to your village. First thing first. So we're going to learn about our village and what village that you have around you, not just at your school, out there in the community, in your household, in your family, whatever resources you have. Those are the resources that you should be using and you should be reaching out. And it can cost you a couple of dimes and nickels every once in a while, but it shouldn't be costing you a lot. There's different statistics looking at people going into the profession from years ago when I was competing for a job and ended up moving a whole bunch of states away just to find a job in a market where there was more teaching jobs. But now there's less people going into the profession. I think it's because we're out there talking negative about all these things and all the things that you have to do. And everyone's seeing these teacher Instagram worthy classrooms and they think that they have to pull everything from their pocket to be able to achieve that. And you don't, you truly, truly don't. Talking from, not to make myself sound old, but a veteran teacher like that has gone and gotten that student achievement. And I've run into my kids like at Costco now and they'll be like, oh, Miss Tan. And I'm like ignoring them as I'm going because I'm not Miss Tan anymore. And they reach out and they're like, oh, hey. And they've got kids of their own now. And they're having these conversations about this moment that they remember because you engage them so much. They don't remember all the things, but they remembered how you made them feel, or they remember that obscure fact that you told them, or that project that you did. That Maya Angelou quote of like, they won't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. That's so true to the T. So you can get that student engagement. Like when I taught world history, I did these paper towel and like toilet paper cats for ancient world history. We did this Egyptian unit, and I was like, I need a project. I want to do something. And I was looking online on Pinterest because like Instagram wasn't a big thing back then. And I kept going through and going through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost so much money. Or there was wrap your kids up for an activity in toilet paper. And I was like, what are they learning about that? That's not the full process. So I really took it upon myself to kind of keep scrolling, and I found this one picture that just kind of resonated. And I made this whole entire thing that led to a video later on. But I made this entire presentation about how they treated their cats and how there's cat statues. And we understood all the Egyptian worshiping. What does each god mean? What does each statue mean? What is the process of mummification? How their cats are treated better in some situations when you die. Like your cat gets a better burial than you do. And I was like talking about all these things, and they're like, you're just a crazy old cat lady. Because, at that time, I probably was a crazy cat lady. I'm super into my cat because, I didn't have kids yet. But we took these toilet paper rolls, and it just simply took an email out to the staff. Hey, can you save your toilet paper rolls for the next month? I need like 100 and something, who knows, probably 200 at that point, like rolls for each one of my kids to be able to do this activity. So all the different teachers were like, okay. And then some like special ed teacher came upstairs, and she walked upstairs, and one of the resource room teachers had this entire bag of toilet paper rolls that she saved up to be able to do crafts. And she was like, hey, I got this. Will this help you out? And I was like, yes, it will. So we made and we cut out like different ears, or you folded it, and we watched these different videos, and we looked at the different designs and what they meant and what the colors meant and what everything meant in hieroglyphics. And some kids included hieroglyphics, and some kids were like, well, they're passing on, and they made these angel wings and attached them on the back, and they made these cool cat statues that they will literally remember for the rest of their lives. For the most of them. Some of them may not. But I still have kids that come up to me to this day and talk about those cat statues, or like, hey, you remember this activity or this activity? And when you're doing these things, you don't just need a big project. Like, you don't have to stack up a bunch of toilet paper for any means necessary and save it all up. When I taught civics, there's this awesome Holocaust museum in Southwest Florida in Naples that was actually founded based off of student projects. And they wanted a place to display these student projects from this contest, whatever. You can look up their story and like understand all their stuff. It's really, really cool. And hopefully we'll have them on here to discuss some stuff. But I had this awesome opportunity of having a training at the district office where I got to hear some guest speakers. And I went up after, and I was like, that was awesome. I wish I could do stuff like this with my kids. And they're like, actually, you can. And they were like, we have museum kits. We can bring a speaker out to your school. So I was like, what? We could do these things? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, how much does it cost? And they said $0. I got a Holocaust speaker, someone that survived the Holocaust, come all the way out to our school. We recorded it. Our students got to hear this guest speaker of a local Holocaust survivor. It was unparalleled. Like, there was nothing that could ever compare to that. And when we were doing this, we started having conversations, and I ended up getting a box car that was so cool and amazing. And we got a Holocaust box car that is survived, and they have it and they travel. And I was like, how much does this cost? And they're like, we don't charge you anything, but the transportation cost is $600 or $500 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, okay, like, let me get with my principal and see what we could do. And another person overheard me, and they went and called their like mom or someone, I can't even remember now. It was like 12 years ago. And they called someone and they ended up sponsoring this opportunity to bring a boxcar to my school. And then we ended up pairing Crystal Knock with that time, having a guest speaker at night, and we had a candlelit vigil outside. And we got to see what the boxcar was at night. And then during the day, our students got to go out and see it. Then, even as I switched schools, we continued that relationship. I continued to have them out, obviously, as Holocaust survivors are not around as often nowadays, for obvious reasons. I reached out to them and I was like, what are other ways that we could do this? And they started recording and having interviews with these Holocaust speakers. And they brought out this gallery walk that our students could walk around and scan and listen to each speaker and see artifacts and see their stories and see their picture of all Holocaust survivors that lived locally in our area. And it was so cool and amazing. So as I continued to do this, Kate, I thought, wow, there's so many people out in the community that really want to do these things. And then I was like, man, we could keep expanding this. And then COVID hit. And so obviously we couldn't bring anyone out to the school at that time. But I reached out to them, and my civics class Zoomed with actual Holocaust speakers. And we actually had a conversation with the museum, and they gave our students like book recommendations based on their stories and their family stories and other friends' stories. And they actually gave these really cool book recommendations. And I look around the room, and we're all on this Zoom call. I have half my students in class, half my students online, and kids are writing down books that they want to go and read based on these people that they've seen. Or maybe I had them last year in ancient world history and they'd gone to the gallery walk and heard their story. So you can achieve that whether it's near or far, whether you have a museum near you, you don't have a museum near you. You can reach out. Like, I live in Florida, but I could reach out to like a Holocaust museum in Houston, Texas, and be like, hey, I want to Zoom with you guys. I want to take a virtual tour. And I'm sure they would easily be able to be like, yeah, we can do that, or we can send you this, or there's these videos, these are the speakers we have. Those things are out there. You can achieve these things. You can achieve anything. Like, I mean, just building engagement doesn't mean that you have to go above and beyond. When I taught US history, we did this amazingly cool, and some of you have seen the reel on my Instagram for the Boston Massacre. And we did this crime scene investigation. And I asked um, the music department and theater department, because they throw this huge thing every year for like a haunted house. And I was like, do you have any caution tape by any chance? And they were like, yeah, we get tons of it. They're like, here, let me grab some. And so I caution taped out the back of my room. I caution taped my door and said there was a crime scene investigation. My kids came in. They got these boards to investigate the crime scene out back. There was like a scene from like a HBO show called John Adams up on the board that was on repeat, just like this one clip of the Boston Massacre. And then you walk in and there's this thing out back. The whole room is dark and there's snowballs and so there's like chunks of inside an old pillow that I ripped out. And so there's all this stuff everywhere. I took toilet paper rolls. I made them look like bloody clubs at the top. I had a student come in that her mom's always at school early because they were also like teachers. And so she came in and like helped me make it look like there was blood on there. And we did all these really cool things. Like there was like fake ice chunks that we made, and I took shells and put them out and all the different things. And then I traced her on paper and had 5 different positions of her out back of like these people that had died. And so you can do these things with the resources that are around you. Like you reach out to your department and you reach out to other departments, be like, hey, do you have this sitting in a back closet somewhere? Because everyone knows that one teacher that has too much of everything in the back closet. It's probably the theater teacher, but you can do these things. Like, it's super easy. I was a Golden Apple finalist 3 times, but I was a teacher of distinction 2 times. So a teacher of distinction in our district is top 70 or something in the district, and then a finalist is top 30 in the district. And then you go on, you have all these interviews, and if you are top 5 at the end, then you win. And but my first year as a teacher of distinction, I was at the banquet, and one of the 5 teachers that had won was up on the board, and they're showing their interviews in their classroom and all these different cool things. And he had an actual courtroom installed in his classroom. It was an old movie set. Someone called him, was like, hey, would you be interested in this? It's just going to go out to the dumpster after, if not. And they came and they installed it in there for him. And so they install this courtroom in there, and I'm watching. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And my husband at the time was just my fiance. And I was like, babe, that's so cool. Babe, that's so cool. I really want that. And like, I was like, I don't even need all that. And he's like, that's really extra. Like, you're reaching for the stars. There's no room for that in your classroom. And I was like, no, that's so cool. If I had my youth and government class that I have after school, what if I had it during the day? And he's like, well, just ask. And I was like, okay. So that's where it all started. Like, this whole if you build it, they will come started in the moment where we get released from dinner, and I walk over to my principal who's there with his wife, and I was like, I want that. Like, can I have gig as a class next year? Have a politics and government class during the day. I won't have to compete with all the other after school electives. It'll be super awesome. And he was like, yeah, done. Like, you can totally do that. And I was like, okay, like, you don't even need to pay for anything. I don't need all of that. And I just kept going. And I was like, I'll get podiums. You don't even have to pay for them. I'll do a donors choose. And he was like, okay, done. And he just kept saying yes and yes and yes. And my husband, who was my fiance at the time, was like, he already said yes. And like, my principal was like, just let her go. It's okay. And just let me go. And his wife is chuckling because they probably already had the conversation about what's about to happen off to the side beforehand. And so I'm discussing, and I was like, all right, like, I really want to build this. And he's like, if you build it, they will come. And I was like, what? And I didn't fully get like the complexity of what I could do at the time. And when I started the class, I was like, my students are writing a bill, like a rough draft to a law. But they're 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They don't know a lot about the world. Like, I need to bring these problems to them. So I'm like finding clips here and there of different things from comedy night shows that were school appropriate, or like now this video is showing a problem here or showing a problem there. And I was like, this isn't as engaging as like actually having a person here telling you and being excited. So I reached out to some friends. Like, our best man was a weatherman at the time at a local news station, and I asked if he wanted to come in. Then I started reaching out, and I was like, maybe I'll just try. I'll just message the city council and see if they want to come in, or the mayor or someone. And I just started sending out these emails. This is what my class is doing. I would love for you to come in. These are the times. And it got so much feedback and so much response of people wanting to come in that I had to make a sign up calendar and organize all these people of coming in to talk to my class. State representatives, local lawyers coming in and doing simulations, like weathermen coming in and talking about like red tide and the issues of red tide, the effects of hurricanes. We did it all simply by just asking. I wasn't paying these people to come in. Over the years, it grew. We brought in Valerie's house, dealing with kids that, had lost a loved one in their life. We had social workers come in, the school SRO come in. We had the sheriff's department come in. We had like domestic animal services come in, and they brought a dog, and it was so, so cute. We had different things that happened over the years, and we started partnering. And I would rotate, and each time they would talk about a state or local problem that my kids could solve through legislation. They wrote the legislation. We went through a mock House and Senate, and then we went off to the assembly, whether it was in Tallahassee or Haines City or whatever it was that year for the YMCA Youth and Government. My kids competed to actually have their law like their bill, their rough draft to a law, their legislation, looked at by the governor for an actual law in the state of Florida if they won by the end of the weekend, which we can get more on that later. But it just simply took me asking. I got the money. I funded the debate podiums on donors' shoes, no cost to me. It was mostly my family donating that year, I feel. But different random people were like, this sounds really cool. I want that kind of class. I wish I could be in your classroom. And they'd send $10, $5 here and there, and they would fill it. And eventually I got those debate podiums and I brought those people in. And my students were highly engaged in that process. And when I see them later on in life, they have public speaking skills. They're going off and they're achieving these things. You could see the growth from little tiny meek sixth graders that have this amazing brain and heart in them, that they don't have the voice just yet, turn into full force, like children that are speaking up in activist like language by the end of eighth grade year. They're growing and you're seeing it grow, and it's beautiful and amazing. But you don't get that by just handing them a worksheet. You don't get that just by sitting behind your desk and like giving them things. Like I do ed puzzles and I give them ed puzzles for things to do and like get engagement that way, sometimes for buffer things. But get up and get them involved. Have them do a crime scene investigation on King Tut. Was he murdered or was it an accident? Like the more mystery in it, the better. Every great conspiracy theory is based on facts. Have them find the primary source facts. You can do this. Like, and it's not just the high school level. That's the beauty of this. And we're going to discuss this over this podcast of how it's not just the middle school level. It's not just the high school level. At the elementary school level, you have teachers, you have front desk staff, have them dressed up. Every 10th day of school, there's a new 10th number. Have someone dress up and they come into the classroom. If you're on the letter S and you're teaching pre-K4 or kindergarten or first grade and you're on the letter S that week and you go ask someone to dress up in a soccer outfit, or you're blessed enough to be at a K through 12 school, ask a soccer player to come in. Find someone that plays the violin for V-Day. Like, enjoy the resources that are around you. Make it fun and engaging. Because if you're a parent, you know for sure that you could tell your kid something 50 million times over and they don't listen to you at all. Someone else says the exact same thing, whether it's grandma, their best friend, their teacher, whoever it is. Like, hey, carrots are good for you. You tell them 50 million times, all of a sudden the PE teacher comes in to do like a health lesson. They're like, Mommy, can we get some carrots? Because they're good for you. Really, bud? That's awesome. We've had this conversation a million times, but you just suck it up and you move on. So, what I'm really just trying to point out is this can happen. There are resources that are out there. There's ways to be able to do this. You have this opportunity, grow with it. You have that. Like it's there for you. You can do all of these things. You just have to ask. If you build that classroom, it will come, and it will come naturally. And your students will thank you for it for years to come. And that engaging person that is engaged in that classroom, whether they become a teacher or not, they will be a teacher because they're going to educate others around them. They're going to be more involved citizens, and they're going to be a great parent. Because I am thankful and I am blessed for the awesome teachers that I had, and it makes me a better parent. So, end this. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, whether you're watching it online or listening to it on a different podcast form. Please tune in and continue. Again, this is episode 1 of If You Build It, They Will Come with Kaisha Louis. Please subscribe to my channels of History Guru channel on YouTube or ICBC Early Learning on YouTube. They both have Instagrams as well to pair and lessons to pair with some of the activities and videos that are there. Have a wonderful and blessed day.